My fellow Nerdikins, welcome back to another episode of That's So Nerdy. Today I've got another deck profile for you, and I'm actually really excited to be showing this one to you. It's one of my favorite decks to use because of its aggro/control ability. It's going to be Gotenks Display of Mastery. And on the front side, when you attack with this card, add up to one card from your life to your hand and draw a card. So that's awesome because that makes it so you are able to self-awaken on top of the ability of being able to have more cards in your hand, to be able to have the fusion fodder, to be able to play your boss cards and go for your game-ending strategy. And you also have the ability that if you have one or more energy, if your opponent has one or more energy and they activate an extra card, you get to draw one card. So that further adds to your ability to be able to just continue to add cards to your hand to be able to play your fusion cards. And then when you awake, and then to awaken you have to be at 4 or less life, and then you restand 2 energy. On the awakened side, when you attack, you draw a card. Still has the extra card ability, and now whenever you activate a Union Fusion, this card gets plus 5,000 power and critical, which is awesome. Awesome ability. Makes it for, like I said, it's a great aggro/control strategy for this deck, and I really, really like it. Alright, first we're gonna show the Unison we're running. It's gonna be Super Saiyan Gogeta Dynamic Unison. Permanent ability is if all your energy is in rest mode, your mono yellow leader card gets plus 5,000 power during your opponent's turn. So that's awesome because that's going to make it so your opponent has to combo more during their turn in order to deal damage to your leader and make you draw those cards. And then once per turn, if your opponent activates an extra card, you get to add a marker to this card. So that's awesome. Not only do you get to, if you have your Unison on the board, if your opponent activates an extra card, not only do you get to add a marker to this card, but because of your leader, you get to draw a card as well. Awesome, awesome abilities. And then if you add a marker to this card, it's got an activate main that you may choose 2 yellow cards in your hand and discard them. If you do, draw 2 cards. Why that's helpful with this deck is because, say you have 2 trunks and a couple pans, but you not the pan that you need to search out your Goten, and you're like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna take a gamble, I'm gonna discard one of these pans, one of these trunks, bam, draw 2 cards, you get what you need, then you can play your fusion cards without having to pay the energy to use the pan to have to search out the Goten. And then if you remove 4 markers during your opponent's next charge phase, your opponent can only switch 2 energy to active mode. So that is really, really good because it's very oppressive and limits your opponent from being able to play their strategy exactly how they wanted to play it out. And like I said, this is a very aggro/control type build that I have going on here. And then we're running 2 of those Unison cards, I apologize. And then we're running 2 of these exceptional ability pans. It's a little 4,000 blocker, 1 drop. If your Unison card is in play, when you play this card, you get to draw a card. And like I said, we're running 2 of those, mainly for the extra draw card ability. It's also nice to have a blocker, but you really just, at least in my opinion, how I play the deck, I just kind of go for my fusion as much as possible and try and hit them with those critical attacks, those double strike attacks, and just end it by turn 3 preferably. Next card we're running is Pan the Earnest. We're running 4 of these. It's an auto ability that when you play this card, you look at up to 5 cards from the top of your deck, add up to 2 Yellow Sun Goten GT, Trunks GT, or Gotenks Adolescence cards from them to your hand, then shuffle your deck, and if you added 1, then choose 1 card in your hand and discard it if you added 2 cards to your hand. So that's really helpful because maybe you're only missing one of the cards for a fusion chain, and you don't really need anything else except for that one card. You could get that one card, and you won't have to be you won't be required to discard a card from your hand after doing so. Or maybe you do need 2 cards, so you get those 2 cards, and then you decide what you have that you can sacrifice, and it just really makes it so you have more control and more ability to be able to use your fusions to go for game-ending attacks. Next card we're running is our last 1-drop, and it's Vegeta The Impregnable. It's essentially the same thing as Pan, except this lets you also search out your Unison card as well. And it also lets you search out a Saiyan with 3 energy or less, which is pretty much all of your fusion fodder. And then your super combo and your other pans and stuff like that. So he's going to let you search out all of those. And we're running 4 of him as well. Next card is going to be our super combo. And we are running Vegeta Earthbound Pride. Really, really basic super combo. It's just when your life is at 4 or less, and you combo with this card with you and a yellow leader, you draw 1 card. Of course, being a super combo, we're running 4 copies of that card. And I'm sure there's better super combos that work with this deck, but I don't have them in my possession, if there are. And I really like how this deck works anyway, so I wouldn't even be bothered if I never switched out for another better super combo. Alright, so the next 2-drop that we're looking at is Son Goten The Eager, and then this is our first 15k attacker, and it's got an activate main that if your leader card is a Gotenks Adolescence, and you discard this card from your hand, add up to 1 yellow Trunks GT card with 15,000 power and an energy cost of 3 from your deck to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So that is awesome because you have, say, him and then another Goten in your hand, but you need a Trunks. So you just discard him, look for your Trunks, because you're gonna have 2 options for 3-drop Trunks, and you just get to search them out from the deck using his ability. So that's awesome. The way this deck is put together, it's really centered around being able to have the ability to get your fusion fodder cards, to be able to play your fusion, to really just kind of cripple your opponent. And then here coming up pretty soon, you'll see that it'll start to also force your opponent to put their battle cards into rest mode and then remove those battle cards and so on and so forth. And this is just a really aggressive control style deck. It's amazing. Next 2-drop we're running is the counterpart. It's Trunks the Eager, and he has the exact same ability as Goten, except instead of searching out Trunks, obviously you'd be searching out the Goten. And that ability is just so amazing to just be able to search out exactly what you need. And then for both of those cards, we're running 4 copies. Next is the 3-drop Trunks. One of the 3-drop Trunks, I apologize, that the Goten would be able to search out, and that's Trunks Flash of Brilliance. And then if your leader card is a Gotenks Adolescence card and you choose 1 yellow card in your hand and discard it, add this card from your drop to your hand, and you can't activate this activate main skill on copies for the turn. So the reason why this is so good is, say you discarded it because you didn't need it at the time, but you discarded it by adding a marker to your Unison. But now, oh no, I need a Trunks. You know what I can do? I'll just discard a card and then pull this back up for my drop because I know he's there. Awesome ability. And then we're running 4 copies of that card. Next card is the one of the 2 that the Trunks can search out, And he has the same ability as the other 3-drop Trunks, that you can pull him back up from your drop if you discard a yellow card from your hand. Awesome, awesome ability. Now, this we're also running 4 copies of that card. Now, this next card is the other 3-drop Trunks and Goten that we're going to be that we can play. Now, if you look, focus. All right. I don't think it's gonna focus well enough for you to. Oh, there we go. Boom. All right. This counts as both Sun Goten and Trunks GT cards. So, what you're gonna want to do is you'll want to play one of him. And if you hadn't noticed, all the Trunks and Gotens all have a power of 15, so they can all intermingle as fodder for the fusion. And then if your leader card is yellow Gotenks Adolescence, when this card is discarded using a Union Fusion skill, you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and switch it to rest mode, and then you can't activate this auto skill on copies of this card for the turn. So once per turn, you can discard this with either a Trunks or a Goten. Doesn't matter, because this can be the opposite of either one. And then you play your fusion card, and you force your opponent to switch one of their battle cards to rest mode. And then we're moving on to our 4-drops, and this is where our first fusion card comes in, and that's going to be Gotenks The Power of Fusion. It's a 20k double striker, Union Fusion for 2 yellow energy, and you discard a Goten GT and a Trunks GT. When this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO it, and draw 1 card. So, bam. Use the Goten / Trunks' ability to make your opponent put that card into rest mode, play this card, you KO that card, you get to draw another card, and then it's a 20k double striker, and then it's got an activate main that if you place this card on the bottom of its owner's deck, add up to 1 yellow Sun Goten GT and up to 1 yellow Trunks GT card from your drop area to your hand. So boom, say it's turn 2, and you and your opponent have both whittled your life down to the ability to awaken. Bam! So you discard a Goten and a Trunks, play him for 2 energy, hit your opponent for the double strike, and then what you do is send him to the bottom of your deck to bring Trunks and Goten, or Goten and Trunks, back to your hand. Awaken, restand those 2 energy, and then say you have Gotenks Overwhelming Might, which is the next 4-drop fusion, which is another 2 cost, but this one's got critical. And then when this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and negate skills for the turn and draw 1 card. So you play this card, and then it's also got the same activate main that when you send this to the bottom of its owner's deck, you get to bring a Goten and a Trunks GT from your drop area back to your hand. So that is an amazing combo to have, to be able to do on your second turn. Maybe you even have 2 copies of the Gotenks The Power of Fusion in your hand. So that's a possibility of 4 damage that your opponent is taking that turn. And that, boom, that's turn 2, you're dealing almost half their life if they can't counter or combo out. Like, that's just awesome. And with the ability to draw throughout with your leader and your Unison and your other cards that just allow you to continue to fill your hand, it just makes for a really hard-hitting combo. And then we're running 4 copies of both of those fusion cards. And then the next card we're running is 2 copies of Great Ape Bardock Might of the Resistance. Now, I know what you're thinking. 4-drop doesn't have any evolution or anything, but if you look at the auto ability, If your leader card is yellow at the end of battle that you use this card in a combo, from your hand, play this card. So instead of it being a 4-drop, it becomes a 1-drop that you play to your combo area, and then it comes back in rest mode. Oh no, doesn't come. Oh, I am mistaken. It doesn't come back in rest mode. It just comes back to the battlefield, and then that is a 15,000 critical and blocker. So that is awesome. And then we are moving on to our only 5-drop in the deck, and we're running 2 copies of this. That's Gotenks Genuine Ability, and again, 5-drop seems expensive, but if you look at the permanent ability, you get to reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1 for each yellow battle card with 1500 power in my drop area. So I can essentially get this down to a 2 cost instead of a 2-drop instead of a 5-drop, because since it does have the specified cost of 2 yellow, it'll always cost at least 2 yellow, unless there's for some reason you have a card that says to reduce a specific yellow or specified cost, or however the phrasing would be. And then it's got an auto ability that when this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's Unison cards or battle cards in rest mode, and it can't attack during your opponent's next turn. So that's more of the aspect of the control that I was talking about. And like I said, that's a 20,000 attacker with blocker and revenge, so that's awesome because that's going to destroy any attacking battle cards that you use to block it with, and you can always combo up for his to keep him on the board to continuously be able to use that ability. And then our final battle card is going to be Gotenks Going All Out. We're running 2 copies of this. It's a 7-drop, but it costs 3 for Union Fusion. You get to draw 2 cards, so it's not only are you pitching 2 cards, but you draw 2 cards, and this is a dual attack double striker, which is always devastating. And then when this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier, negate the skills for the turn, and then KO it. Awesome ability. So it's essentially like all the fusion fodder and the previous fusions before kind of combined. And then that dual attack double strike, if your opponent wasn't already on their last legs before you're able to play that card, they will be after that, if not dead already. Alright, now let's move into the extra cards that we're running. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I mentioned we're running 2 of those Gotenks. Now, the first extra card we're running is Time Magic. It's a counterattack. We're running 4 copies of this card. 1-drop, if your leader card is yellow, negate the attack, and choose one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier, and switch it to active mode until, or it can't be switched to active mode until the start of your next turn. So that's more of the control aspect that I was talking about. And then it's got Sparking 5 that so if you have 5 cards in your drop, 5 or more cards in your drop, you can activate this by bringing a life to your hand instead of paying the energy cost. So that's going to be helpful in possibly self-awakening or avoiding any like critical damage, so you can actually continue to bring that life to your hand instead of having to discard it, which is always helpful in any deck. Next, we're running Flying Nimbus. We're also running 4 copies of this. It's just another counterattack. Pretty basic. When you play a yellow card, if you place a yellow card from your hand to your drop, your opponent can only attack 1 more time with battle cards for the duration of the turn. That's helpful. It's less helpful since the introduction of Unison cards, obviously, because if your opponent attacks with a battle card, then you play Flying Nimbus, and then they still get 1 more battle card, and then an attack with the Unison and attack with the leaders, depending on what the Unison is, and so on and so forth. So it's a little bit less strong of a counter, but I still needed another negate in here. And then like I said, we're running 4 copies of that card. The last card we're running in the deck is Burning Kamehameha. We're only running 2 copies of this card. And then if your leader card is yellow and you have a yellow Unison card in play, you reduce the energy cost of this by 1, so it becomes a 1-drop instead of a 2. And then if your opponent has 4 or more cards in rest mode, so that counts their energy as well, you get to choose one of their battle cards in rest mode and KO it. So if you haven't already KO'd your opponent's battle cards in rest mode with the abilities of your fusion characters, then that is going to take out the rest of them as long as you have the energy to already play it. But by that time, you should have won with this deck already, to be completely honest. I don't have very many decks that I know so far that really can hit so aggressively and control the board as well as this deck really does. Well, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and stay nerdy.